And they're off. That's Frere Jacques off to the early lead, about 3 lengths over Dante. McLean Henrich on Frere Jacques showing the way as they head to the top of the stretch. That's Frere Jacques by about 5 over Dante. Jacques by 10. With less than a quarter of a mile to go, that's McLean Henrich and Frere Jacques out in front by about 10 lengths over Dante. It's all Frere Jacques at the top of the stretch. Frere Jacques and Dante. As they approach the wire, that's Frere Jacques, McLean Henrich. They look to be easy winners today. That's Frere Jacques at the wire, followed by Dante. Thank you. And they're off. Looks like number 1 is leading. That's Sahara Mist off to the early lead, followed closely by Maggie Ode to Joy and All That Jazz. Now number 3 is leading. Number 3. I'll fix the damn thing. We got it. I think that's number 3. As they come into the lead, that's number 3, Maggie on top, followed closely by Ode to Joy, All That Jazz, and Sahara Mist. That's Maggie in front at the top of the straight. Ode to Joy making a run on the outside, but that's Maggie in front. Number 2 leads. At the top of the straight, it's now number 2, Ode to Joy, on top with Lauren M. Feldman in the irons. That's Ode to Joy in front, followed by Maggie, All That Jazz, and Sahara Mist. We have a lost rider. It appears Sahara Mist has lost rider. That's Ode to Joy in front, followed by All That Jazz and Maggie. At the wire, that's Ode to Joy. Ode. God damn. They are turning in, and they're off, and that's Lost John out to the early lead, followed closely by Running Late, Wood Whistle, and Joe at 6. As they approach the first fence, that's Running Late over first, Lost John, Wood Whistle, and Joe at 6. Right now, it's Remy Wynitz on Running Late, showing the way by 5, back to a tightly bunched Wood Whistle, Lost John, and Joe at 6. They're all over the second fence safely. That's Running Late and Remy Wynitz out by about 6. Back to Joe at 6, 2 back to Wood Whistle, another 1 back to Lost John. They're all over that third fence safely. Again, that's Running Late out in front. Make it 5 back to Joe at 6, another 5 or 6 back to Wood Whistle and Lost John as they head down the hill. That's still Running Late, but Joe at 6 is now making up ground on the inside. That's Running Late, Joe at 6, Wood Whistle, and Lost John. As they turn and head up the hill, that's still running late, showing the way. 2 back to Joe at 6, 3 back to Wood Whistle, another 1 back to Lost John. They're out of my sight right now, but as they went out of sight, it was still running light on top. They're back into sight now. That's running light on the inside, Joe at 6 on the outside. Wood Whistle and Lost John, that's still running light with the lead as they head down the hill, followed about 4 lengths back to Joe at 6, another 5 back to Wood Whistle, and 1 back to Lost John. Down at the bottom of the hill, that's running light. It's only 2 back to Joe at 6 now, 3 back to Wood Whistle, another 2 back to Lost John. They're all over that fence. It's running light on top as they head up the hill. Running light, followed by Joe at 6, Wood Whistle, and Lost John. It's running light by about 3. Joe at 6, 2 back to Wood Whistle, about 5 back to Lost John. As they turn and head out towards Green Valley Road, that's Remy Wynitz and running light in front. Joe at 6, about 4 behind her, 2 back to Wood Whistle, and about 5 back to Lost John. They're all over that fence. As they head out into the country, it's still running light on the outside. Joe at 6 on the inside, Wood Whistle and Lost John. Running light and Joe at 6 jumped that fence together. As they head out into the far turn, that's Joe at 6 on the inside, running light on the outside. About 6 back to Wood Whistle, another 2 back to Lost John. They're turning and heading this way. That's Joe at 6 and running light, heads apart on the front end, about 3 back to Wood Whistle, about 5 back to Lost John. As they come to the next fence, it's still running light, showing the way by about 3 over Joe at 6. Running light over first. Joe at 6, 2 back, running light. About 4 or 5 back to Wood Whistle, another 5 back to Lost John as they come to this fence. That's running light on top. Joe at 6 next, Wood Whistle, and Lost John. They're all over that fence, safely heading to this next fence. That's running light on top. Joe at 6, Wood Whistle, and Lost John. They're all over that fence. They've got about a mile to go. That's running light in front. Followed by Joe at 6 on the inside, about 5 back to Wood Whistle. Lost John making up ground now on the inside as they head down to the hill. Joe at 6 now picking up the challenge on the front end. That's Joe at 6, running light, heads apart, about 6 back to Lost John and Wood Whistle. Michelle Hunter has now picked it up with Joe at 6. It's Joe at 6 and running light. Those two are heads apart on the front end. Running light still has not relinquished the lead. That's running light, Joe at 6. Those two about 8 lengths ahead of Wood Whistle and Lost John. They've got 4 fences to go.
Running light back in front by 3. Running light in front by 2.
Running light still with the lead. It's Remy Wynitz and running light. Joe at 6 trying to get there. It's now Joe at 6 and running light. Heads apart across the track. Wood Whistle making a late bid down on the lower side of the track. Joe at 6, running late, those two heads apart. Wood Whistle trying to get there on the outside. As they come to the wire, that's running late. Joe at 6, Wood Whistle. It looks like it's Joe at 6, running late. Wood Whistle, and Lost John. That's very unofficial from my angle.
Close to pretty girls, come on. Michelle.
They're turning in, and they're off. Out to the early lead is Bruno Castelli, followed closely by Black Chester, Patrician Power, and Quaremba. That's Bruno Castelli first over, Black Chester next, Patrician Power, and Quaremba. It's Bruno Castelli by about 5. Back to a tightly bunched Quaremba, Black Chester, and Patrician Power. Over that next fence, that's still Bruno Castelli with the lead. 4 back to Quaremba, another 2 back to Black Chester, 1 back to Patrician Power as they come to this next fence. That's Bruno Castelli on top. Bruno Castelli and Christopher Lyons over safely on top by about 5 over Don Cochran and Quaremba, followed closely by Jason Griswold and Black Chester and Jim Whitner on Patrician Power as they head down the hill. That's Bruno Castelli on top by about 5.
No change.
As they turn and head towards the 4th fence, that's Bruno Castelli with about a 4-length margin over Quaremba, about 3 back to Black Chester, another 2 back to Patrician Power as they head up the hill. That's still Bruno Castelli on top.
Number 1 still leads, number 7's in second.
That's still Bruno Castelli on top, followed by Quaremba as they come up the hill. Bruno Castelli showing the way by about 3 or 4 over Quaremba. Another 3 back to Black Chester, a couple back to Patrician Power, but that's Bruno Castelli on top. Make it a 6-length lead over Quaremba. Bruno Castelli heading down the hill. Let's make that margin 10 lengths. Back to Quaremba, about 2 back to Black Chester, another 2 back to Patrician Power. Dr. Lyons showing the way, 12-length margin back to Quaremba. Another 8 back to Black Chester, 2 back to Patrician Power, but that's all Bruno Castelli on the front end. He's over that fence. Quaremba next over. Black Chester and Patrician Power as they head up the hill. That's Bruno Castelli. He's got about a 8-length lead over Quaremba. Another 5 or 6 back to Black Chester. Another 2 back to Patrician Power. As they head out towards Green Valley Road, that's Chris Lyons and Bruno Castelli showing the way. About 5 back to Quaremba, another 3 or 4 back to Black Chester, and 2 back to Patrician Power. They're all over that fence. Still, Bruno Castelli showing the way. That was Bruno Castelli over first with about a 6-length lead over Quaremba, about 4 back to Black Chester, another 2 back to Patrician Power. They make that far turn. That's Bruno Castelli. He's got about 10 on top of Quaremba, about 4 back to Black Chester, another 1 back to Patrician Power. As they come towards us, that's Bruno Castelli still showing the way. Bruno Castelli and Chris Lyons on top by about 6-7 lengths back to Quaremba, 1 back to Black Chester, Patrician Power making a move on the outside. That's Bruno Castelli over first. Black Chester next. Patrician Power and Quaremba in between horses. Bruno Castelli over first. Bruno Castelli with about 5 over Black Chester. 1 back to Patrician Power, another 1 back to Coremba. Bruno Castelli over that next fence. Black Chester next, Patrician Power and Coremba. As he heads down the hill, that's Bruno Castelli with about 10-length lead over Jason Griswold and Black Chester next to Patrician Power and followed by Coremba. Bruno Castelli opening up on the field as he heads down the hill. He's got 12. Jim Whitner and Patrician Power, Jason Griswold and Black Chester are trying to make up ground, but it's all Bruno Castelli on the front end. Bruno Castelli by about 10. Black Chester's next. Patrician Power's right there, and it's 5 back to Coremba. As they turn and head up for the final 4 fences, that's Bruno Castelli on top by about 8 over Black Chester, 2 back to Patrician Power, and another 5 back to Coremba. That's still Bruno Castelli on top. Bruno Castelli in front with Dr. Lyons, followed by Black Chester, Patrician Power, and Coremba. He's got 2 fences to go. That's Bruno Castelli. Bruno Castelli on top, Black Chester's next, Patrician Power in third, and Coremba on the outside. 1 fence to go. That's Bruno Castelli, Black Chester, Patrician Power, and Coremba. That's Bruno Castelli on top down to the wire. Black Chester, Coremba, and Patrician Power. It's now Coremba up on the inside. Bruno Castelli, Black Chester, Coremba, and Patrician Power at the wire.
Thank you, Bruno Castelli. You can smile a little, Chris. Just as much as I smile.
They are now off. That's Sham Assist to the early lead with Simple Play right there, followed by Don't Tell Nina and Exultant. They're all over the first fence. It's Sham Assist in front, followed closely by Simple Play, Don't Tell Nina, and Exultant. That's still Sham Assist crawling along in the lead, followed by Simple Play, Don't Tell Nina, and Exultant. Sham Assist and Simple Play heads apart, 2 back to Exultant and Don't Tell Nina. They're over that fence. That's Simple Play and Chris Gracie on the inside with about a neck lead over Sham Assist. Now Exultant moving up on the inside. That's now Exultant in front, followed by Simple Play, Sham Assist, and Don't Tell Nina.
In second, Don't Tell Nina in third. Exuberant is about 5 on the field. The other 3 closely packed behind them.
As they make that far turn, that's Brian Carell and Exultant out in front, followed 4 lengths back by Sham Assist, Simple Play right alongside, and 2 back to Don't Ask Nina.
Exuberant still in front by 2 as they come to the 4th.
That's still Exultant showing the way by about 2 lengths as they come up the hill.
Simple Play in front, Exuberant second.
As they come into Excite, that is Exultant in front,
Exuberant behind them.
Simple Play is next. Simple Play has now moved up to take the lead, followed by Exultant, Sham Assist, and Don't Ask Nina. Don't Tell Nina. Down the hill, that's Exultant now taking up the front end again, followed by Simple Play, Sham Assist, and Don't Tell Nina. Simple Play has now regained the lead as they head up the hill. It's Exultant on the front end. A neck back to Sham Assist, one back to Simple Play, another one back to Don't Tell Nina. As they turn and head out to Green Valley Road, that's Exultant, Sham Assist, Simple Play, and Don't Tell Nina. Still showing the way at this next fence, that's Exultant, followed closely by Sham Assist. Two back to Simple Play, another two back to Don't Tell Nina. They make the far turn, that's Exultant by one. Sham Assist next. Another one back to Simple Play, another one back to Don't Tell Nina. Back into view, that's Exultant showing the way in front. Simple Play and Sham Assist heads apart in second and third. Don't Tell Nina, it's Exultant first over. Sham Assist and Simple Play about three back to Don't Tell Nina. Exultant on the inside, Sham Assist right there. Simple Play and Don't Tell Nina. Sham Assist now on the inside. Exultant, Simple Play, and Don't Tell Nina as they head down the hill. That's Exultant on the inside, Brian Carell on the irons. Sham Assist on the outside, Simple Play, 2 lengths back and another 3 back to Don't Tell Nina. Four fences to go, that's Exultant on top. Sham Assist right there, 2 back to Simple Play, another 2 back to Don't Tell Nina. Exultant on top, Sham Assist moving up on the inside. Simple Play and Don't Tell Nina. Making that far turn, it's still Exultant holding on to a small lead over Sham Assist. Simple Play a couple back, Don't Tell Nina. As they head up the hill, Sham Assist now assumes the lead. It's 1 back to Exultant, 2 back to Simple Play, another 2 back to Don't Tell Nina.
Express in front. Down the first, joined by Simple Play, a length back to Exuberant, 3 lengths back to Don't Tell Nina.
Back into view with 2 fences to go. First over, Sham Assist, then Exultant, Simple Play, and Don't Tell Nina. As they come to this last fence, that's Sham Assist over first. Exultant is in second. Simple Play and Don't Tell Nina at the wire. That's Patty Young on Sham Assist. Brian Carell and Exultant, Simple Play, and Don't Tell Nina.
The running time on that race was 6:27.80.
They are off. That's Young Dubliner out to the early lead, followed by Neruda, Watch Captain, Duke Mornier, Matchless, The Barker, Charles Dewan, Narrow River, and Barefoot Blues. They're all over that first fence. That is The Barker. No, that's Neruda on top now. Young Dubliner right there. Duke Mornier. These horses are moving along. That's Neruda first over, Young Dubliner, Duke Mornier, Watch Captain, Wild Choice, Matchless, The Barker, Charles Dewan, Narrow River, and Barefoot Blues. Over that next fence, that's still Neruda with a slight lead over Duke Mornier. It's about 8 back to Watch Captain, Young Dubliner. Then comes Wild Choice, The Barker, Matchless, Charles Dewan, Narrow River, and Barefoot Blues. But out in front, down the corner there, that's Neruda and Duke Mornier. As they head up the hill, that's now Duke Mornier on the lead. Neruda, Watch Captain, Young Dubliner, Charles Dewan.
The leader pulled up and Remy's gone to the front.
Duke Mornier has pulled up. It is now Neruda on top. Neruda now your leader with Remy Weinitz. Followed closely by Father Woods Weinitz on Watch Captain. As they come into view, that's Neruda on top. Neruda, Young Dubliner, Watch Captain, Wild Choice, The Barker, Charles Dewan. As they head down the hill, that's Neruda in front. They head to this next fence, that's Neruda, Young Dubliner, Watch Captain, Wild Choice. The Barker. All appear to be over that fence as they head up the hill. That's Neruda in front. No, now Young Dubliner has taken up the lead. That's Young Dubliner, followed closely by Neruda. Matchless on the outside, Wild Choice. The Barker, Charles Dewan, Narrow River, Matchless, and Barefoot Blues. That's Watch Captain and Young Dubliner on the front end. Wild Choice right in there between horse. Charles Dewan on the outside, The Barker on the inside. Neruda, Narrow River, Matchless, and Barefoot Blues. As they head out into the country, that's Watch Captain and Young Dubliner showing the way. A very tightly bunched field. Charles Dewan has now moved up to take the lead. Charles Dewan and then Young Dubliner. As they make that far turn, that's Charles Dewan, Watch Captain, Wild Choice, Neruda. Back into view, that's Watch Captain and Neruda, father and daughter right there together. In between horses, that's Charles Dewan, then Wild Choice. Then you got Young Dubliner, The Barker, Narrow River, and Matchless. Coming to this next fence, that's Watch Captain and Neruda in front. Charles Dewan, then Young Dubliner, Wild Choice, The Barker, Narrow River, and Matchless. Next to this fence, that's Watch Captain, Charles Dewan, Neruda, Young Dubliner, Wild Choice, The Barker, Matchless, and Narrow River. They head down to the hill. They have 4 fences to go. That's Neruda in front. Watch Captain on the outside. Young Dubliner moving up on the inside. Wild Choice, Charles Dewan. The Barker, Matchless, and Narrow River. As they head down to the far turn, that's Watch Captain on front, followed closely by Neruda, Charles DeWan, Wild Choice, Young Dubliner, and the Barker. They turn and head up the hill. That's Watch Captain in front, Neruda next, Charles DeWan, and Wild Choice. They're out of sight, and that was Watch Captain in front as they went out of sight.
Looks like Charlie DeWan's moving up ahead.
Charles DeWan is now moving to the front. Here they come. 2 fences to go. It's Charles DeWan on the low side. Wild Choice. Watch Captain. As they come to the last, that's Charles DeWan over first. Wild Choice on the outside. Matchless is still there. But it's Charles DeWan and Wild Choice down to the wire. Charles DeWan and Wild Choice. Wild Choice, Charles DeWan, Watch Captain, Young Dubliner, the Barker, Neruda, Matchless, and Narrow River.
Happy birthday. Smile, that's right, good. Come on, Chris, get closer.